The Little Match Girl. It was New Year's Eve, and it was freezing cold. The little match girl walked barefoot through the dark streets. Her hands and feet were blue from the cold. She had not sold a single box of matches or earned 1 penny. People hurried by without a glance in her direction, thinking only of returning home to their firesides. The poor little creature was hungry, cold, and sad. Snow began to fall, and the flakes settled on the little girl's hair. Candles shone in the shop windows, and the air was filled with the wonderful smell of roast goose. The girl did not dare to return home because she knew how angry her father would be with her for not selling any matches. She huddled in a corner between 2 houses. It was becoming colder and colder. She looked at her matches and thought, "I will light one of them, and perhaps it will warm me a little." So the little girl struck a match, which flared into life in the darkness, warm and bright as a candle. The little girl imagined that she was sitting beside a warm, crackling stove. But when she lifted her feet to warm them, the match suddenly went out, and the wonderful stove disappeared. The poor girl sat all alone in the snow, holding the burnt match. She quickly struck another match. Then the wall behind her became transparent like muslin, and through it she saw a candlelit table spread with all kinds of wonderful food. The marvelous smell of roast goose, stuffed with apples and plums, floated in the air. But in a matter of moments, the match flame went out, and the table vanished, leaving behind nothing but the cold, hard wall. The girl struck yet another match, and this time the most beautiful Christmas tree you could possibly imagine appeared before her eyes. The tree was decorated with candles, tinsel, and colored bubbles. Under it lay a small present, wrapped in colored paper and tied with gold and silver ribbons. The match went out, and the girl held out her hand towards the Christmas tree, expecting it to disappear, as the stove and the table had done. Then the lights of the Christmas tree rose up into the sky, higher and higher, until at last the girl saw no flames of candles, but beautiful stars. As she watched, one of the stars shot across the night sky, trailing behind it a long silver tail. The little match girl remembered her grandmother telling her that a shooting star meant that someone was dying. Again, she struck a match, and there before her stood her dear grandmother, the only person who had ever loved her. She had been so good and gentle, but sadly, she had died some years ago. "Oh, grandmother, please take me with you," exclaimed the girl. "I know that you will disappear. When the match burns out, you will vanish like the lovely stove, the roast goose, and the Christmas tree." Quickly, the little girl struck all of her remaining matches, one after the other. they flared up as bright as day. Then the little match girl's grandmother took her in her arms and carried her away up into heaven, to where there was neither cold, nor hunger, nor fear. The people who found the little match girl lying frozen to death in the snow on New Year's Day could not understand why she had such a lovely smile upon her lips. "Look how she tried to keep warm by using matches," they said. None of them had the slightest idea of the beautiful things which had been given to the little girl to see, or of how her loving grandmother had appeared to carry her soul up to heaven. The Old House. Once upon a time, there was one old house left in a street of new ones. It had beams carved with curling vines, and above each window was a grinning face. The gutters were shaped like dragons with heads at each end. The water was supposed to come out of their mouths, but the gutters were full of holes, and the water came out of their stomachs. In the house lived an old man who was dressed in strange, old-fashioned clothes and lived alone except for one equally old servant. "He must be very lonely," thought the little boy who lived opposite. "I'll give him a present to cheer him up." He had 2 tin soldiers, so he packed one of them up and gave it to the old man's servant, saying, "Please give this to your master." A little later, he was invited to visit the old man. His parents gave their permission, and off he went. He was excited, for he had always wanted to go inside the old house. When he knocked on the door, the old servant opened it and took him to a room filled with old-fashioned furniture, where the old man greeted him, saying, "Thank you for the tin soldier, my little friend." "I thought you might be lonely, and he would keep you company," replied the boy. "Oh, I'm not lonely. Old dreams and old memories often come to visit me, and now you are here." When the old man went to call for some food, the tin soldier, who stood nearby on a chest of drawers, began to speak. "I don't like it here. It's so sad and quiet. I can't see the old man's dreams and memories when they come. I can't stand it." "But you must," said the little boy firmly. The little boy visited the old man many times after that, and each time the soldier begged to be taken home. He grew so angry that one day he fell from the chest. The little boy and the old man looked for him, but could not find him, for he had fallen down a crack in the floorboards. Time passed, and the old man died. All the furniture in the old house was sold, and finally, the house itself was torn down. "A good thing, too," said people as they passed. But the little boy was sad. He had loved the house, a new house was built, but not exactly where the old house had stood. A little garden was planted on that site in front of the new house. The little boy grew and got married, and one day he moved into that new house. One day, his wife was planting some flowers in the garden when she pricked her finger on something sharp that was sticking out of the soft earth. What could it be? It was the tin soldier, the very same one which had fallen through the crack in the floorboards all those years before. The young man was so pleased to see him again. He had a special glass case made for him and stood it on his mantelpiece. It was a great honor for the soldier and made him very proud.